All righty. Well, good afternoon, good morning, good evening across the nation here. And welcome to our part two of our webinar series. And today's topic will be from participant to facilitator, what system simulations training of trainers provides. All right, so excited to give you more information and have this dialogue today about our simulations and about caring guidance. And so, of course, I want to introduce myself. My name is Sterling Taban. I'm the Healthy Schools Manager and Dell Self-Esteem Project Cadre Coordinator. And so I've been doing this role about 3 years now. I have a background in public health and community wellness. And so I'm a little bit of a nerd and a geek when it comes to systems thinking and change management. So I'm excited to be around other individuals that care just as much about the topic today. So before we get it rolling about system simulation and in our great professionals that are going to have this dialogue today, just want to tell you a little bit more about caring guidance. So our director, Jess Lawrence, who's actually on the call today, has been around since 2006, and she was a previous middle school teacher and overseer for health education for the Department of Education in Oregon. Our work primarily focuses on education, public health fields in the United States, including the intersection of public health and school communities. All right, and of course, we have the opportunity to share out change management education across the nation as well. And so for our 20th anniversary, we're hosting this four-part series in sessions that are all standalone and that you can go back and watch as well of our previous recordings about our simulations. And so we're really going to learn more about the participants, our trainers, their experiences, and how it's impacted their own shared communities. So just a little bit more about our simulation. All right, so as you see on the board there, we have access to two simulations, making change and systems thinking, systems changing simulations that are framed within a K-12 school district. They were developed using funds from over 40 years ago from the Department of Education. And with these dollars, David Crandall was able to come together with his nonprofit, who no longer is existing, but he was able to start the first original system simulations. And then Jess got the intellectual property through Caring Guidance. And so there, we've been able to do some updates, changes, names changes, making it a little bit more relevant to our school communities now, and have been able to sell these simulations across the nation and across the world at this point. So as you see us playing a simulation in the middle. And then as well as we got creating community change that is going to be coming really soon. And that creating community change is an opportunity to do these simulations within business sectors, nonprofits, governmental sectors, and communities that come together that want to create change, right? That's very vague, but we know there's a lot of communities that want to create change, but might not have the tools to do so. So excited to share more about that resource. So before we get introducing ourselves, I want you to go ahead and drop your names, your organization, where you're from, in our chat, just so we learn more about each other as you're going to learn about our panelists here. I just want to build this community as we're on this call today. So go ahead and share your name in the chat, where you're from, and maybe your position or your association. Perfect, perfect. So we get it rolling here. So I want to introduce just our panelists, our professionals, our change agents that will be on this call today. So we have first Christy Glenn, President and CEO of Pinnacle Partnerships. Darius Buggs, Training Manager for Healthy Futures Texas. J.R. Chester as well. She's our Senior Director of Training and Technical Assistance. Let's see her just hopped on. Good to see you. Perfect. And then we got Sarah Axelson, Senior Director of Innovation and Technical Assistance for Power to the Side. Then you got Megan Mully Gore, Director of Health and Wellness for Sullivan 108 or 180, excuse us. And so I want them to introduce themselves briefly before we get into this conversation. But for our first question, as I throw it to them, they'll introduce themselves and then answer these questions. So let's start with Christy. Christy, tell us, why did you choose to attend one of these simulations or the system simulations training the trainers?
Thanks, Sterling. Hi, my name is Christy Glenn, again from Pinnacle Partnerships. I am the president and CEO of Pinnacle, and we focus on family and community engagement, specifically related to mental health. We also facilitate a lot of trainings in schools with school partners around trauma, mental health. We certify teens and adults in mental health first aid, which all of these things tend to bring up a lot of conversations in school communities about challenges within schools and within healthy schools. Mental health happens to be one of the most underfunded sectors in schools. And so oftentimes we hear people's frustrations around how to make change happen within a school. How do we get better services? How do we have more supports for students? How do we combat burnout for staff? So it's extremely relevant to the work that we produce here at Pinnacle Partnerships. I was first introduced to the system simulation through a large event that Jess and her team were facilitating in Arizona. And there were multiple school districts from across the country that were participating in the systems thinking, systems changing simulation. And it was so inspiring to be in that room. There were lots of different simulations that were happening and several people that were working as the monitors, which I'm sure we'll talk about a little bit more what that role is, but helping to give feedback to the participants in the simulation play to help them along the way and how they were making decisions together as collective teams. And I really felt drawn to the simulation. And so when the opportunity came about to come in and become a facilitator for the systems thinking, systems changing simulation, I was so excited to hop on board and work more with Karen, expand the relationship that we had, but really kind of grab the reins and do more with the systems thinking because I think it's such a value add to the work that we are producing here at Pinnacle and to all of the school districts and the other community members and people who we interface with related to the systems change and change management. It's difficult and it's long work, and I think this really helps people to shift their thinking around what it means to step forward into change.
Perfect. Thank you, Christy. And I would love to hear from you, Sarah. Why did you choose to attend one of these simulations from our TOT?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much, Sterling, and great to see everybody today. As I shared in the chat, my name is Sarah Axelson, she, her pronouns, and I'm the Senior Director of Innovation Training and Technical Assistance at a national reproductive health organization called Power to Decide. And perhaps similar to Christy, I have a long history with Jess and with Karen Guidance and actually with this simulation. I think I was first introduced to it probably 20 years ago at this point, very, very early on in my career, in a federal project that we were working on when Jess facilitated it for statewide nonprofit organizations that we were partnering with. And I didn't spend a lot of time with it back then, but it always stuck with me because I remembered the level of sort of motivation and engagement that I saw in the room and the way that the discussion that folks had been having about systems change translated to energy and excitement and reflection at a level that I hadn't seen before in that first interaction. And so many years passed, and I heard through the grapevine that Jess and Karen Guidance were purchasing the intellectual property and were updating the game. And when I saw that a TOT had come out, I jumped at the chance. And primarily for me, it was because our organization runs several different shared learning collaboratives. We convene a bunch of different groups for different purposes and at different frequencies throughout the year. But the through line of many of those groups is that we are working with them over an extended period of time and trying to support them as they engage in systems change work themselves. And so the systems change simulation then is an important tool for us to be able to also help them identify the things that work in systems change that they might be able to both implement in their own communities and sustain over time. And as much as I have absolutely deeply loved and continue to love bringing the care and guidance team to come do it with us, the TOT offered us an opportunity to really think about sustainability in our own organization and to really leverage our resources and expand our capacity to offer that training so that we now have, myself and other facilitators who can provide that training in-house and with Karen as needed if we aren't able to do it ourselves. So we were really excited to broaden the number of folks who could do that, but really have those tools in our toolbox and to be able to offer them to the folks that we work with.
Perfect. No, thank you, Sarah, for sharing just the sustainability piece of being a part of a trainer. So I want to hear from our other individuals because I think we have time. Then we might not have all doing the next questions, but I believe we'll do Megan, and then we have Darius and JR tell us why they chose to be a part of the trainer.
Sure, I would love to. So I'm Megan Mullally Gore. I'm the Director of Health and Wellness at Sullivan 180, and we are located in Sullivan County, New York. I met Jess and several of the Cairn team members at ASHA, the American School Health Association conference a couple years ago. And I think you guys were showing how to play the game in a very short 90 minutes, which is not typical. And I fell in love with it immediately. So I came up and introduced myself afterward. And then when I found out that there was going to be a train the trainer, I was very quick to take advantage of that. What I experienced during the simulation is what really we do every day at work. And I was like, wow, it lives on a game board. This is so interesting, and a really fun way to teach others. So at Sullivan 180, we have multiple programs that serve all of our Sullivan County school districts. But essentially, we stipend a human being in every school building in our county to work on health and wellness initiatives. We also provide grants for them to implement these initiatives. It is a very, very important piece to our work that they learn about what it takes to create change, all of the different archetypes and the stages of change. And when I experienced playing the game myself in that 90 minutes, I did not want it to end because I was like, this is really, we're seeing on a game board what we experience every day at work, over weeks where we're trying to get a grant through or we're trying to implement that initiative. And it's just a completely different way of approaching work that might become very frustrating and tedious. It gives you opportunities to think outside of the box and try different strategies. So I was sold right away. I was thrilled that there was an opportunity to become part of this team, and I can't recommend it enough. So thank you.
Thank you, Megan. Thank you for speaking to just the resource that it is. And then last, we're going to have JR and Darius. I kind of put y'all together because I know y'all come from the same organization. So I know y'all individually are strong, but I would love to hear from you all just as an organization that brought in two of their partners to the trainer.
Yeah, Darius, you want me to start? I can kick us off. So our start was a little non-traditional maybe, just because of the time. It was a time of folks were not getting together in person and everybody was kind of afraid to breathe around each other. And so Darius nor I had ever heard of it. We hadn't met any of the amazing team at Care and Guidance. It was very much a voluntold situation, and it was virtual. It was, hey, we're doing this as an organization, and because you are a part of this organization and because of the position you hold within the organization, you're going to be there and you're going to spend your Friday online for like a lot of hours. It was for systems thinking, this was like, what? But we enjoyed ourselves. We had a really good time. And where we really connected was our first opportunity in person for specifically a TOT training. So we were participants with the virtual round. But when a TOT opportunity came up, we knew we wanted to take advantage of it because we are in Texas, and I don't know where everybody else is coming from, but Texas is its own little thing inside of our great country that we live in. And so we are facing so many changes in this state, and especially around the adoption of sexual health education in schools across the state. Our State Board of Education newly implemented some minimum standards now for health education, and that kind of brought us into the 21st century a few years ago. And a lot of our school districts were like, what? Like, we have to do what? And we have to teach what? And we had a lot of tools and resources to help them be in compliance with state law. We had a lot of tools and resources to help them find evidence-based interventions and implement. But the piece that was missing was the piece about, okay, well, how do I get buy-in? How do I engage parents? And how do I, get the other people across the organization, our school district, to understand why we're doing something, the importance, and want to, it's like this board game was designed for us. And for what we were experiencing, our little organization in this great state, and the part we were playing in all of this. And so it was just absolutely perfect that we had the opportunity. And then, of course, because you all were letting us know towards the end of that TOT that making change, you were going to tell people, like, well, what? We have to be there too. We wanted both boards. We wanted to be able to do this at the systems change level and also that individual level. We understood how important both of those were. So it was just absolutely amazing. And that is why it went from a very much volunteer participant situation to an absolute yes, resounding yes, we want to be here in the building, we want to learn in person and engage and then be able to carry this forward in our state and in our organization.
Nice. Thank you, JR. Darius, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I just want to echo what JR was saying. Specifically in my role as a training manager, I think as JR was mentioning, being a participant, it allowed me to actually connect the dots, actually participating in the simulation training. I'm a systems thinker by heart, and so again, it really helped me build my capacity as I'm working with the communities and the youth serving professionals that I engage with on a regular basis through training aspects. And so it really kind of brought some things to light for me so that I can be able to help those communities be able to create the change and develop the capacity for themselves to be able to move people along, but also understand all the pieces and all the players that actually make up that change.
Definitely. No, thank you all for sharing your insight and what got you here, at least to our TOTs. And so our next question here, and these questions, we probably do two of you all since we don't have too much time here. But let's maybe start back at the top. Let's do that. All right. So Christy, I would love, and Sarah as well, what were your perceived notions of systems thinking, change management, or the simulation itself? All right, so let's start with Christy and Sarah. Even these are strong scholars and professors of their own, right? But I would love to kind of hear your thought process, your mental model when coming into just this opportunity.
Sure. So I think for me, one of the things in our organization is we come through the lens of lived experience. And so all of our staff has the lived experience of raising a child or supporting a family member with mental health needs. And so everyone who works for us has fought and clawed their way through systems that don't work, right? And so I think that was a perceived notion for myself as the leader of this organization, and for all of the folks that work within it. We all bring that experience of this system is broken. No matter what I do, I can't make my way through it. And then shifting into the lens of being a professional and working within a system, it's that same feeling, but it's shifted from a personal lens to a professional lens. So similar to what Megan was saying, I think when I came in, I really didn't know what I was going to expect in terms of other types of professional development around systems change and management that I had been through before. And then to come in and see it laid out in a game board and it truly feel like, wow, this is life professionally and personally, what it feels like to try to make change or navigate systems or move things along. I think that that experience for participants is eye opening. And I think immediately people feel seen and heard in their day to day life. And that brings a lot of buy-in to the simulation itself and to people saying, this is something that is could potentially be a value add to my day, right? I think a lot of people go to professional developments and think that we're voluntold, like JR said, to be there. And oftentimes we walk away and we've spent 6 hours staring at a screen and there's not always a lot of value add. But this is something that people, I think, can take up immediately. And so those notions that I had about systems change and how to actually make sustainable change, I think were tilted on their head by the end of the first simulation that I participated in. And that really made me want to become a facilitator and help to move this along to other places.
I love that. Thank you, Christy. Sarah.
Yeah, happy to share. And it probably won't be the scholarly professor type answer, but I just have two quick thoughts. The first is I come from a game family. We love games. We used to play games all the time. I'm a highly competitive person when it comes to games. And so I thought, oh, this will be easy. Like, no big deal. I'll just go right in, attack this the way I attack every other game. It'll be great. And I had actually been a monitor first. So I figured, like, no problem. I think when I went in and actually played the game for the first time, even as part of the TOT simulation, it was such a good reminder of like just how wrong sometimes our notions can be, and how difficult community change really can be, and how time consuming and challenging, but how worth it in the end it actually is. And so I think that reality check reminder was an important one because even though it is a game, it is really designed to reflect the realities of this work and what that's really like. The second part of it, I think I actually want to speak to like one of my sort of anxieties about even purchasing the simulation and becoming a facilitator. And for me, a big part of that was, well, I don't work in school health as much. Is this right for me? And I felt like I'm not sure it's going to be a good fit. One of the things that I have found over time, both in talking with Karen and in facilitating it myself, is that it's really flexible in the way that you can adapt both how you talk about the game as a facilitator, like how you engage participants in it, and then also the conversations that you have between the years in the game. And so I think I would just encourage folks if you have that same anxiety, or if you're feeling like, oh, I'm not sure if this is going to be applicable to my setting or the folks that I work with, give it a try. Because in all likelihood, it does offer enough flexibility in that space that you can make that work while we're waiting for creating community change. And then if you saw I dropped in the chat, I'm particularly excited about that one because I think that one will also speak to that same piece of things. So for me, it was really those two things about sort of that really great reminder about the challenges and value in our systems change work, and then the flexibility of the approach.
Perfect. No, thank you. And I think that leads us possibly to our next question. This would be for Darius, you and JR, and then Megan and others. If you want to chime in, please feel free to do so. But as a result of participating in the TOT, the trainer, what did you learn or do with the skills you gained? Right. So I think you might have touched that a little bit, but I know you all mentioned just it as a resource as you're going to work in your community. So I would just love to hear what were just the things that you gained, or it could even be as a participant. You can kind of use that same question of your mental model, how that changed coming in. So I'd love to hear your thoughts. I think Darius, she's probing you. Okay, gotcha.
Okay. Yeah, I think for me, being a participant in the TOT, again, I think there was some clarity. I believe I've been working in systems change, systems work majority of my career, but this really allowed me to have some real life, real tangible applications by actually going through the simulation. Um, it helped me kind of realize when we think about the archetypes, it made me, the thing in particular that I struggled with in the beginning was the resistors, right? And so when I thought about the resistors and look instead of looking at it from a lens, a mental model of they just don't want to do this, but going back and thinking about what their mental model, what led up, where we were hearing here, where we're talking about lived experience, there's a lot of times there's some lived experience that causes some behaviors or a mental model that would constitute this archetype resistor. And so it really made me think about the resistors and how I could really partner with when I'm actually working with individuals that in my communities, or if I'm in a training setting, to really be able to put my foot in their shoes for a lack of better words,
Mhm.
and to include them in that process. It's not about just dragging them through the finish line or with this new intervention, but really helping them be a part of that. Because eventually, as we know, policies and procedures can actually bring them across. But I really was appreciative of that and the clarity. So I really enjoyed that, and then just the skill building, just which was kind of some outliers for me. I think about the visualization activity, the icebreaker, stuff like that. So I was able to add those things to my tool belt when I'm thinking in terms of facilitating engagers in my own setting.
Nice. Thanks for sharing, Eric. JR, yeah.
Yeah, I'll piggyback on Darius specifically about our Texas Youth Friendly Initiative. So not only do we work with school districts as a statewide systems change movement, we work with adolescent serving clinicians. And so a lot about what you just talked about, Darius, obviously we want our clinicians to take a person-centered approach. And so what we kind of took away from these particular interventions and applied is the way we talk to our providers about the framing, the words they use, the labels they put on difficult clients and patients, the framing of the late, the resisting, won't follow the plan, difficult, refuse, and it's like we want to take a very person-centered approach, like Darius said. What could have been some lived experiences or some cultural reasons why this person may be here? So we went a little bit further in trying to understand the archetypes and take a really person-centered approach. Everyone is not resisting just for the sake of being difficult or stubborn. There are other factors. And so we really took the time to start thinking about these archetypes within our programming and how we can help our youth serving professionals better consider at a person-centered level why and reasons that these particular archetypes may have come to be, and how we reframe, how we approach maybe a little differently, and potentially get some better results.
I love that. I love that response. So being able to that share language, right, and us realizing our own share language within our organization, how it's affecting our behaviors and their behaviors as well. Megan, I would love to hear from you because your organization does a lot of work. You mentioned grants. You mentioned I've been able to be in Sullivan County up in New York and see the work you all do. So I would love to kind of hear your thoughts about the skills you've
Sure.
gained and your whole entire team as well.
Yeah, so at a basic level, some of the most outstanding things that I took away, including what everybody else has mentioned, was the opportunity to network. So I met Sarah when I was at the Train the Trainer. I
Right.
got to know you, Sterling, better, and Jess and Sam, and it provided, similar to a conference, it provided such a great opportunity to meet others from around the country who were in maybe similar work, but it really expanded the number of resources that I had access to. So I very much appreciated that. Prior to going to the Train the Trainer, we actually, because I was so moved by my game experience at ASHA, we did invite Jess in, and Jess was able to facilitate the game for our entire agency. And one thing that I was a little concerned about, it was just a week before I went to Louisville, Kentucky to do the Train the Trainer, was wow, this is a long game, and it is It seems like there's a lot to facilitating it. So if I actually owned the game prior to going to the train the trainer and was looking at all the pieces and was like, woof, I don't know what I signed up for here. Without the train the trainer, of course it could be figured out, but I very, very much appreciated learning aside all of the others that I met there. That was a great opportunity. And then the third thing I wanted to mention is between me playing the game at Asha, between Jess coming to us and the train the trainer, I built so many facilitation and presentation skills, just how to set up the room, different things around the table, that the fidget toys, the scent in the room, the music. I got much, much more than I ever thought that I would by attending the train the trainer.
No, thank you, Megan. I think you're reading our minds here as an organization. And so our next question is, would you recommend someone to come to our training trainer, even though they don't have to, right? They can fully buy this, the simulations, our game board, and go out there and launch the simulations. But you all mentioned it already, but I'd love to hear from you all once again. What were the things that you take back, or what's the benefits of someone attending this trainer that they wouldn't get if they just bought the game board? And so I know Megan mentioned, and Darius mentioned just the mental models. So our facilitation activities was a big deal. Just the way of the room, how we laid it out. But it's some other nuances. The network, super, super. I think just the connectivity to a network that cares is a big deal. Sarah, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm happy to jump in. I mean, one other thing about me is Sterling, I think you were talking about sort of referring to the things that you love to learn at the beginning of this webinar. I am like a training and facilitation nerd, I will say, and I love all things training and facilitation. And one of my favorite parts of the TOT was being able to be in a room and watch other people do that, right? And be able to see how folks were approaching different components, talk about their choices and decision making and how they did that, do teach backs, get feedback, and take notes on things that I might want to integrate into my own training and my own facilitation of the game. So it actually goes beyond just, this is how you give this instruction or this is how you use this game piece into like, let's talk about why you might want to approach this way, or here's three different ways you could do this particular piece and why you might want to choose one in one setting versus one in another. And so I think the value of that is just so much more than the game itself. It's really being able to build out the way you think about facilitation and facilitation of the game, and being able to give you the skill set for making intentional decisions that will enhance the experience of the people that you're facilitating the simulation for.
No, for sure. I think, Sarah, I remember our TOT, and it really was like an iron sharpened iron type of situation where our game and our game board, our simulation is one of those things where you can't make it meet your school community or your shared community, right? And so there are nuances to those conversations as a facilitator, how you go about that. And those trainers are a good place to have a safe, very supportive environment as we continue to learn about how we can better our communities when it comes to change management. So let's go to our final question of the day here. Um, so I'll just let anyone jump in and we can end it like that. We have Jess who's going to have a few slides at the end, but from our panelists. So how would you explain the system simulations to others to make the case for them to use or experience it? And so you all are in positions in where you are supervising or managing others, right? And so what is your pitch? How do you make the case for these simulations? Christy? Yeah.
So I work with a lot of other school districts. So I'm often talking to different schools about utilizing the simulation. And what the sort of like line, if you will, it's like a pickup line for systems thinking, systems changing. I tell people that it's like a flight simulator, and that the participants can practice having courageous current conversations that they typically may not like feel comfortable having, so that it's low risk and high reward. And I think that helps to ground people in understanding what the day is like. The other thing that I think, especially schools really like about the simulation is that it's a truly interactive day, right? The laptops are away, the emails are away. There's an opportunity there for real team building in a way that doesn't always exist.
Mhm.
And then when you get to talk about, hey, we can bring this real thing that you are facing in your district or in your school and use that as what we're going to walk through for the day and try to figure out how to make a change around it. That real life application, I think it is massive for how to spend a day where faculty and teachers and other folks don't always have a lot of time for these kinds of professional development, that is a day well spent for people on a number of different levels.
For sure. No, thank you. Any one of our panelists, anybody else want to share how you go about pitching or making the case for our simulations? JR, I see your mic's on mute.
Yeah, so we haven't like pitched, if you will, to any like outside folks, outside of like opening up the registration event, the activity. And I think the way we went about doing it is we found language that was very encompassing of youth serving professionalism. So we made sure not to focus on the school factor or things like that. It's an immersive simulation. Like you don't have a VR headset or anything, but you are in the building. You are in that space. The meeples are real. And they are, some of them are frustrating. And, you know, and it is fun because it's a space for teamwork, thought partnership, well, the conflict every once in a while. You know what I mean? It's a place for negotiation. You know, it is just all kind of, it's just a completely immersive experience of what we are faced with in real life all the time. And we get to practice. We get to become better in a safer environment where the stakes aren't so high the way they are when we have to take it, you know, to the field. And so that's how I think about it. But that's like the kind of the language that we use when we. So the way we went about it is we did a pilot with our partners. Mm-hmm. So we did like an in-person. We're a statewide organization, so we did regionally in San Antonio where our home office is, and we did it was safe. And the fee was that you come and you provide, you know, some feedback for us. You let us know, how would you describe this simulation? What do you think, who you think would most benefit? Or, you know, all that kind of stuff to see what people were thinking. And we took that information and we used that language to build out how we marketed on our flyers for the events we are holding. So we just incorporated making change. This is the first one we incorporated into what we were already doing. We already do an annual symposium. We already do regional summits. So we took that feedback and took that language and we just made it very universal. If you are a youth serving professional working in systems or an individual making change within these systems, you know, so it's making change, basically this is for you type of thing. And so that's my 2 cents on that and how I describe it. It's exciting. It's exciting to talk about. And I think people feel the energy as we were talking to our partners about it and kind of getting them to like buy into, this is why you want to be here. Yes, we have food. Yeah, but also, like, this is a really cool experience. And we had like 12 folks come and participate, and everybody gave feedback and had a really great time and a lot of fun. And I think we found that was like our best form of advertisement, is coming and just kind of sharing. And then that kind of does the work, you know, the folks, and they talk about it and like, oh, I want to bring this back to my team or to my, you know, whatever the case may be.
Perfect. Well, thank you all so much. Round of applause for our panelists here. You know, put your little meme, put your little emoji in the chat, whatever it might be. But thank you so much for your shared insight and what you all bring to this change management network, right? Innovation, always being able to meet our communities and our educators where they're at, and then provide them something that they can actually use within their setting. So thank you all so much. And I want to pivot next to hearing from our director, Jess Lawrence.
Thanks so much, Sterling. Appreciate all of you that had the opportunity to speak today. It's so exciting to hear from all of you. For those of you on today or watching a recording on demand later on, I do just want to reiterate, and Sarah, I think you mentioned this, that our field, other than systems, is in school health. So our panelists are coming from kind of a health education or school health or healthy schools approach, where these simulations are used in education no matter what. So from arts education to math to any sort of leadership change, moving from punitive to restorative discipline practices, the simulations can be used in all different ways. Our panelists mostly are coming from a school health background because those were our connections and partnerships when we held our first training of trainers. So thanks everyone so much for giving us some insights on how you're using and what it's done for you and your organization and your partners. So just a few finishing slides that I wanted to share. So Sterling, thank you for letting me share today. This is our second in a series of webinars, the series of webinars, and we can watch the recordings on demand. Of course, we have another one coming up in August around Everett Rogers' theory on adopter types and change management, in which Sterling and I will talk specifically about that. And then the one in December is on addressing resistance and creating shared partnerships. So we know that there's different levels of resistance, from just someone who's a passive resistor to sabotage and everything in between when it comes to change or when it comes to a new initiative or innovation. But we'll talk a little bit about that and how leaders can address that within their own education communities. So if you are interested in registering for those, there's no cost for August and December. The registration QR link is right there. You go to the next slide, Sterling. Thank you. We also are excited to share that our next training of trainers is October 6th through 9th in Louisville, Kentucky. Participants are welcome to join all 4 days to get trained in both simulations, both making change and systems thinking, systems change, or just do 2 of the 4 days. And if you're interested, we do not have our registration up, but if you sign up for our newsletter, you will receive a registration link and have an interest form there, as we are collecting names, and hopefully it will fill up and we will be excited to host people in Louisville October 6th through 9th. So we're super excited about that. The next slide is the 10% discount. So for those of you that have joined, this is a 10% discount offers for the Making Change and Systems Thinking simulations. So we will make sure to do a follow-up for participants to make sure that you have these codes, and that QR code leads to the systems sales page. So if you're interested in using that discount code, that would be the codes there on the slides, and we will follow up with you with an email that has those codes as well. I think I just have one more slide. So finally, this is another QR code. It leads directly to our newsletter, and we will be sending out an interest form soon about those for those of you that are interested in the training of trainers and securing your spot. So if you are interested, definitely make sure you're on our newsletter. We usually send a newsletter out once every month or 2 months. So we don't bombard people with information, but we do keep people in the loop, especially if you're interested in the community-based change game and when that will be coming out as well. So we encourage you to sign up through that QR code, and we will send that link out as well. Sterling, I'll hand it over to you to see if anyone has any questions, including our panelists. If any of you have questions for each other or questions for us, we're opening it up right now.
Yeah, we got a good 60 seconds. So if you got any questions for us, we got more time. I can spend here with you, but questions, thoughts, concerns, feel free to unmute yourself, put it in the chat. And if not, I could be a psychiatrist and just stare at you for a little bit longer.
I have a question. What are you waiting for? Sign up today.
I love it. That's a great way to kind of end our little webinar here. So once again, thank you all for joining our part 2 of our webinar series. We will see you in August, and look out for those emails that we'll share with you regarding that discount. You want to know about that discount, right? And then just some more about our newsletter information ongoing. So thank you again, and we will talk to you soon. Take care. See ya.